Second Nedarim Daf Chav Hey is divided in half by a Mishnah. The Mishnah begins the topic of Nidre Gogois, a neder which is made by mistake. The first half of the daf is discussing when a person makes a neder, can he be claiming that he made the neder using words that have meaning according to him, has his own personal meaning for the words? Or do we say it doesn't matter what your own personal meaning for the words are, the words mean what they are, they mean what they mean as the way most people use them, and you can't have your own meaning to it. So the Gemara is going to bring two proofs on the topic, and then the Gemara is going to talk briefly about the case of somebody says he saw a snake as big as the beam of an olive press. Let's begin the Gemara. The Gemara has just said that you can't have a situation where somebody names a herd or a cluster of ants and he calls them Ka'ilim Mitzrayim. And he says that's what I was referring to when I said I saw as many people as came out of Mitzrayim, or as many as came out of Mitzrayim on the road, as referring to the ants. That's not a people talking. You can't make up your own words and speak a shua in accordance with them. So the Gemara says, is that true? Do we not take into account a person's own meaning of certain words? I'll show you that we do. Where do you see that? So the Gemara says, because when you make a person do a shua, the Brisa says you tell him, you should know that the shvua, the oath that you're making, is not on your own terms, it is on our terms. You're using the words that the Beis Din uses. So the Gemara says, so clearly, if he would use his own words, and we had not warned him, he would be able to say that these words don't mean to you what they mean to me. It's only because we warned him and said, no, we're explicitly saying that the words mean what we use them for, that doesn't work. So you see that generally it would work. Now, what kind of situation, what kind of words, what kind of tricks could he be playing? Most logically, he's playing a trick like we discussed over here, where he named something which it's not. So, for example, if he owes somebody zuzim, so he gives him a pack of cards, and he says, "Oh, I call those things zuzims. I gave him the cards, and those are the zuzi that I owe him." So he says, then he could swear, "I paid him. I gave him the zuzim because he did. He gave him the cards, and he calls the cards zuz." Very similar type of thing here, where he has his own words for what he said. So Gemara says, no. That kind of thing was no havamina would be accepted. And that's not what the Gemara was. That's not what we had to exclude when we told him you have to use our words, not your own words. We're talking about a much more subtle trick which he may play, and that's the case of the reed with Rava. So the case of there was somebody who lent money to someone else, and he claimed it back from him. The other guy said, "I paid you." So they went to court, and the lawyer said, "I paid you back." So the court said, "Well, if you paid back, you have to swear that you did." So he had a walking stick with him. He took his walking stick and he said, "Okay, hold this for me for a minute." He gave it to the malva, he gave it to the lender. He said, "Hold this for me for a minute so I can take the Sefer Torah and swear." And he took the Sefer Torah. So the malva, the lender, held the walking stick in his hand. In the meantime, the borrower took the Sefer Torah and he swore, "I paid the money back to the lender." So the guy was so upset that he went and he swore falsely that he took the stick and he crashed the other guy over the head, and the stick broke, and out fell all the money that the other guy had hidden in the stick. And what he had done was he had hidden in the stick, so while he was swearing, the malva really was holding the money. He had given the malva the money, but he was going to get the stick back as soon as he put the Sefer Torah down, if not for the fact that it was revealed. So in this case, he actually technically swore to the truth, and he didn't really use words differently. He just kind of tricked us in the way that he said it. So for that, we do have to make him swear. We have to say, you're using our terms, not your own terms. When you say you paid, it means that you paid, and he knows he got it, and he has it, and he's not going to give it back to you unknowingly. All those things don't count. That's what you have to exclude. But if somebody decides to name playing cards as zuzim, or he decides to name ants, or mitzrayim, there's no tzad that such a thing would work. That's the Gemara's first proof in rejection. Now the Gemara goes to a second proof in rejection, and this is from a shua that Moshe Rabbeinu made us all of Klal Yisrael swear. It's based on the pasuk at the end of Dvarim, which says, "Lo itchem levadchem nochi kares as hebres azos v'as Allah hazais." Not with you alone do I make this agreement, this bris, this promise. And the Gemara has a drasha in the Brisa, "V'lo itchem levadchem" means not in your terms. Moshe Rabbeinu was saying, not in your das is the terms of this oath, and not in my das. It's a das of Kadosh Baruch Hu based on his law of what these words mean. So the Gemara says, what was he telling us? What was he saying? We cannot claim that we're swearing and be playing a trick. So most likely, if we were over an Aveira and we're swearing that we would be swearing that we're not going to do an Aveira, but really we're referring to an Aveira as something else. We're using some other trick. So what's an example of that? So maybe, for example, we want to serve Avodah Zarah. Chas v'shalom, we'll name the Avodah Zarah Elokah. We'll name it as a god, and then we'll say we're not serving Avodah Zarah, we're serving God, because I called my Avodah Zarah, his name is God. So that would be a trick, very similar to what we're talking about here about renaming things. So Gemara says, no, that wouldn't work. It wouldn't work anyway, because an avodah zarah can be called Eloka. Eloka, or it would be Eloha, if it was referring to avodah zarah, is a valid term. Like it says, V'chol Elohei Mitzrayim es Shvatim, I will punish all the gods of Mitzrayim, when he uses the term Elohei. So now the Gemara wants to know, why did Moshe Rabbeinu make us swear in this way, by my terms, by your terms? Why don't you just clarify what he meant? So the Gemara is going to go quickly through a number of options and why they don't work. So the Gemara says, first of all, why don't you just say that he's going to make us swear to keep the mitzvahs? The Gemara says no, because then we would say, well, I did the mitzvah of accepting a king upon myself, so I did a mitzvah, so I could swear I did a mitzvah. The Gemara says, so let him make us swear that we'll keep all the mitzvahs. The Gemara says, and if we wear tzitzis, it's as if we're keeping all the mitzvahs, because tzitzis is weighed keneged all the other mitzvahs. The Gemara says, okay, so let him make us swear that we'll keep Torah. The Gemara says, no, Torah could be any of the things that the Torah refers to as Torahs hadis or Torahs hadat, like Torahs mincha, Torahs asham, Torahs chatas. We could refer to any of those things. So the Gemara says, so then let him make us swear that we're going to keep all the Torah. Or let him make us swear, the Gemara says, that we'll keep Torahs, many Torahs. The Gemara says that could refer to a few of those, Torahs chatas, Torahs asham, Torahs mincha. The Gemara says, okay, then let him make us swear that we'll keep Torah and mitzvahs. The Gemara says, okay, that'll just be the two things, Torahs chatas, all the different Torahs of karbanas, plus tzitzis. It still hasn't solved the problem. It's still not clear. So the Gemara says, okay, so then let him make us swear that we're going to keep Torah kula, all the Torah. So Gemara says, no, that could just mean that we're not going to do avodah zarah. What about all the other mitzvahs? Because avodah zarah is as strict as kol haTorah kula. So if we just swear that we're going to keep that, that just means we're not going to serve avodah zarah. So we still haven't said it clear. So the Gemara says, okay, so let him make us swear that we'll avoid avodah zarah and keep Torah. That should cover everything. Or let us swear that we'll keep 613 mitzvahs. That'll cover everything. You can't get out of that one. Gemara says, no, we just wanted to use a language which was simple and not burdensome. And that's why he said, not on your das, not on my das, but on Hashem's das. Okay, that concludes this Gemara's discussion. Now the Gemara refers back to the Mishnah. We had an example of an exaggerated, and then there was somebody's story, saw a snake like the beam of an olive press. So Gemara says, what's so exaggerating about a snake about the beam of an olive press? There was once a snake that big. There was a snake in the years of Shavar Malka, King Shapur, and they put in front of him 13 storehouses of grain, and he ate them all. So you see, he was really big, and he could eat that much. So Shmuel said, we're not talking about the fact that it was the size of a beam of a beis habad. We're talking about the fact that it was ridged like a beam of a beis habad. So Gemara says, what do you mean? All snakes are ridged? The Gemara answers, yeah, but most snakes are ridged on the stomach, and these are ridged on the back. So the beam of a beis habad is ridged on the back. If somebody says he saw a snake that was ridged on its back, there's no such thing. Someone says, why does it just say so? So say that I saw a snake ridged like the beam of a beis habad. What are we playing games here for? So Gemara says, we're teaching us another thing. We're teaching us that a standard beis habad has to be ridged. And if somebody says a beis habad, the beam of an olive press, he means ridged. And it's important to know, because if somebody sells someone else a beis habad and he has a beam of a beis habad and he has to deliver it, it has to come ridged. If it doesn't have that, then it doesn't count, and he did not fulfill the sale terms. Now we begin the next Mishnah, which discusses the third type of neder, which is not chal at all, and that's a neder that's based on an accident or a mistake, what the Mishnah calls nidrei shigogos. The Mishnah teaches us about 4 examples. Example number 1 is if he simply forgot. He says he makes a shur or he makes a neder that he didn't eat or drink a certain thing, and that's because he forgot that he did. So that's a mistake, and there it's not chal because it's based on a mistake. Same thing happens if he makes a neder that he's not going to eat a certain thing and he forgot and he ate it. That's also based on a mistake. Now, if somebody asks his wife from having it on him and he says it's because I know that she stole my wallet or that she hid my son, and it turns out that that was not true, that was a false understanding that he had, she didn't do those things, so that's also a neder based on a mistake, and it's not chal. And the 4th case is where he saw someone eating his figs, and he said, my figs are carbon too. He asked his figs on him. And it turned out that those people eating them were his father or his brothers. And had he known that that's who it was, he never would have asked them, but he was not aware of what their identity was. Now, what happens if his father and his brothers together with other people? So here you have a bit of an issue, because those other people he did want to aser, but his father and his brothers he didn't want to aser, but he only made one neder or shvua. So what do you do there? It says in Machlokas Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai says you can't split the neder, and therefore it's chal on those other people, and they are aser. It's carbon for them, but it's not chal on his father or his brother. Now, Beis Hillel disagree, and they say you can't split a neder. It's either all good or all no good, and therefore in this case, since it's canceled with regards to his father and his brother, it's canceled completely with regards to everyone else that's there as well. Gemara now begins, and the Gemara says, just like a neder based on a mistake is not chal, a shua based on a mistake is not chal. And the Gemara gives an example of a shua based on a mistake. The Gemara goes so far, even a situation where what one of them said was false, but he really thought it was true. The Gemara's example is when you have Rav Kahana and Rav Asi who are arguing what Rav said. One said he said like this, one said he said like that, and each one swore that Rav said like what I think he said. Now, Rav only said one way, so one of them swore falsely. But since he really said, he swore that this is his understandings, that's a valid shua, that's really how he understood it, and it's not called a false shua, even though one of them was only actually what I've said, but both of them were swearing that this is their understanding. The Gemara now comments briefly on the topic of a neder, which is partially good and partially no good. So where it says that in the beginning, when a person would make a neder that he's not going to eat, we would start by saying, did you mean Shabbos and Yontif also? The person said no, so then we matired him to eat on Shabbos and Yontif, but only Shabbos and Yontif. We didn't cancel the entire neder. Came along Rabbi Kiva and said, no, the entire neder is canceled. Since part of the neder is no good, since he didn't mean to make a neder Shabbos and Yontif, the entire neder is no good even for the weekdays. Now, we're still in Daf Chafei, but the Gemara launches into a lengthy machlokes about the Mishnah now, but we'll save it for the next